Hi, welcome to my channel if you're new, welcome back if you're a subscriber. Today I'm going to be sharing my September TBR, and I actually haven't done a TBR video since June. So I took a few months off of doing TBR videos, but I decided that I wanted to restart up, and there are so many books that I'm really interested in reading this coming month, but I have a few announcements. So if you haven't seen on my channel already, I am starting a book club called Lights Out Book Club, and I'm so excited to be starting this. The first book pick is Velvet Was the Night by Silvia Moreno-Garcia, and I'll link above my announcement video if you want more detailed information on my book club. But basically it's a horror/thriller book club. This one is actually a historical noir, but I still really wanted to read it. My co-host is Alicia Guzman from Alicia Guzman here on YouTube. She's a really good friend of mine, and I'm so excited to be reading this book along with her. The live show will be on September 19th at 7 p.m. CST. Please let me know in the comments if you'll be reading this book and listening to the live discussion and participating. I also made an Instagram for my book club, Lights Out Book Club. I will put a little picture of it above and put all the information in my description box. Please go subscribe to Alicia if you're not already subscribed to her before. So I wanted to read this little blurb that actually Silvia Moreno-Garcia wrote on Goodreads. So it says, "What is noir? This is a noir, not a thriller. Both genres get confused. The stakes in noirs are smaller. Nino Frank says noirs are essentially psychological narratives with the action, however violent or fast-paced, less significant than faces, gestures, words, than the truth of the characters. Noir is also confused with its younger cousin, domestic noir. Domestic noir tends to focus on upper-class white women and often deals with the home as a space of danger and conflict. Velvet Was the Night is historical, simmering noir, and its theater is not the domestic, but a vast city in turmoil." So this sounds really good. It's about Mexico in the 1970s, and this is about Mate, and she's the secretary, and to kind of escape her boring life, so to speak, she likes to read a lot of romance, and she kind of lives for romance, and she has this neighbor, Leonora. She's very envious of Leonora because she seems to live this kind of sparkly, dazzling, romantic life, but one day Leonora disappears and Mate tries to figure out what is going on. There's also a man named Elvis, and he is a leader of a goon squad, and he loves rock and roll, and he is also looking for Leonora, and actually Mate and Elvis cross paths, and yeah, that's all I need to know. So it sounds really good, and I hope you all will pick up the book for the book club. So the next announcement is Jessie from Reading with Jess here on YouTube is actually starting a book club, and I'm going to be her first guest on her channel. We're going to be reading The Broken Girls by Simone St. James, and the live show will take place on September 23rd at 7 p.m. CST, 8 p.m. EST. So this takes place in a dual timeline. So one of the timelines is in 2014, and it follows a journalist named Fiona, and she keeps revisiting the events around her sister's death 20 years prior. 20 years ago, her sister was found dead in a field by Idlewild Hall, and her boyfriend of the time was convicted of murder. But this never really sat right with Fiona, and she feels like something is maybe not as it seems. The hall is being restored though, and Fiona is actually writing about it, but she makes a discovery that links her sister's death to some secrets that were supposed to remain buried in the past. So the other timeline takes place back in the 1950s. So in the 1950s, this hall was actually a place for troubled girls. And there were actually rumors that this boarding school was haunted. So first of all, so excited about those academic settings because I love dark academia in thrillers. So 4 roommates bonded over their fears, but one of them disappeared. So this sounds like a really good book, and I was kind of glancing at Goodreads, and it looks like it's going to be a really creepy atmosphere, a dark academia vibe, and that sounds right up my alley. Please go subscribe to Jess as well. She's such a great person. So I'm going to read 56 Days by Catherine Ryan Howard for the book troupe, which is hosted by Gabby from Gabby Reads. This sounds amazing. This is about a couple named Sierra and Oliver, and they meet right before the pandemic happens, but pretty soon there's a lockdown and Oliver invites Sierra to move in with him, and she decides to move in with him because she thinks, okay, I won't get the judgment from my family. This is kind of a unique situation. I'll just get to know Oliver and I won't have to worry about the impression he makes on my family for a while because everybody's separated. But Oliver may have some sinister plans, and this may be the perfect opportunity for him to hide who he really is. So in the present day, detectives arrive at Oliver's house and they find a decomposing body. All right, the last book I'm reading for a book club is actually a book club where I will be meeting in person. It will be with Gabby from Read with Gabby on Instagram and also Caitlin from Let Me Take a Shelfie on Instagram. And I'm so excited to actually get to do an in-person book club. And we are going to read The Final Girls Support Group by Grady Hendrix. So this is about a group of girls, 5 to be exact, and they have been meeting in this support group because they all have one thing in common, and that is that they were all final girls. And basically it's in secret, but one day one of the members disappears and it's clear that someone knows about their group and is trying to tear apart their lives once again, and they have to decide how to survive again. This concept sounds amazing. I read Horror Store by Grady Hendrix and rated it 4.5 stars. I absolutely loved it, and I just finished the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires, and oh my gosh, so good. I wrote a review over on my Instagram, and I will actually be filming a wrap up of everything I read in the last couple months, ranking and reviewing them all. I know I'm super behind on that, I'm sorry, but I will be getting that out, and I will share all my thoughts about that book. I absolutely loved it. So I hope this book lives up to my expectations because I think Grady Hendrix is such a unique author. He writes these premises in a way that is so funny, but also super clever and very gory, very spooky. I just really love Grady Hendrix as an author. He's slowly becoming one of my favorite authors. It may be too soon to say that because yes, I've only read 2 of his books. Okay, so the next book I want to talk about is The Ruins by Scott Smith. And this has been on my TBR for such a long time. I hear Jordaline over at Jordaline Reads here on YouTube raving about this book. This was actually made into a horror movie, and I've been putting off watching the horror movie because I really want to read the book first, and I just want to read the synopsis on here. Trapped in a Mexican jungle, a group of friends stumble upon a creeping horror unlike anything they could ever imagine. 2 young couples are on a lazy Mexican vacation, sun-drenched days, drunken nights, making friends with fellow tourists. When the brother of one of those friends disappears, they decide to venture into the jungle to look for him. What started out as a fun day trip slowly spirals into a nightmare, and they find an ancient ruin site and the terrifying presence that lurks there. Oh my gosh, this sounds so good. So if you all don't know, I love The Descent. One of my favorite horror movies of all time. Seriously, it's so high up there. I love how it is an adventure horror story, and this just sounds similar and it sounds so good. The next book is The Woods Are Always Watching by Stephanie Perkins. And I'm going to buddy read this with Mina over at Book Skywalker. So this is about 2 high school best friends, and they've been friends for a long time, and they decide to take one trip together before they go their different ways to different colleges across the country from one another. So they decide to go on this 3-day backpacking trip in the woods, which, by the way, I would never be brave enough to do that, especially right out of high school. What? But anyway, makes for a really good book. Basically, there starts to be some tension between them, and they break off the trail and they enter sort of this horrifying situation. And this sounds right up my alley. Again, I love adventure horror, and also The Ritual is one of my favorite horror movies. I know it was a book. I probably need to read that book, and I love the woods setting. It just sounds so horrifying and so creepy. So I really want to read Evil Eye, a slasher story by April A. Taylor, and this combines some of my favorite elements in a book, so a slasher book and also an isolated setting. So 6 strangers are stuck together on an island and they have nothing in common, but one of them happens to be a serial killer and wants to pick them all off one by one. This honestly just sounds like a blast, and I cannot wait to read it. I also really want to get to Chasing the Boogeyman, and this is by Richard Chizmar. This is about a usually peaceful town in Maryland being struck by murder. Mutilated bodies of missing girls start to turn up, and the police believe that there is a serial killer on the loose. Rumor has it that this evil may not be entirely human. So I heard that this book has a really big true crime vibe to it, and I honestly haven't read much true crime. I don't really know why this is, because I love horror, I love, you know, spooky things, but I haven't really gone down the true crime route. But I'm really wanting to give this book a try, and it's not a true crime book, but it may change my mind if I like that feel, and I may kind of go into reading more true crime. Anyway, I'm really pumped to read this, and it has really great reviews, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. So I just want to quickly mention these last couple ones. So I really want to get to My Heart is a Chainsaw by Stephen Graham Jones. First of all, I've said this before, the title, who doesn't want to read this book based on that title? It's just so intriguing. It's described as Shirley Jackson meets Friday the 13th, so that sounds really interesting. This is about Jade, a half Indian outcast, and she's not accepted by her family. And her town also doesn't want anything to do with her. The only way she seeks comfort is going to horror movies and seeing movies, especially where there is someone who is bullied or someone who's not accepted, and they take revenge on the people who have wronged them. Now, murders actually start happening in real life though in the town she's in, and she tries to figure out what's going on based on all of her horror movie knowledge that she has acquired over the years of finding comfort in these things. And this sounds like a really interesting premise, and I'm really looking forward to getting to it. I really want to get to For Your Own Good by Samantha Downing. So this sounds like a dark academic thriller, which yes, love it. So this is about a teacher of the year at an elite prep school, but when a popular student, a fellow teacher, get in his way, he will stop at nothing and wants to teach them lessons for their own good. I am super intrigued for this, and I cannot wait to get to it. I really hope I can get to it this month. This TBR is so ambitious, and I'm such a mood reader, but we'll see. Fingers crossed. So the last two books I want to talk about are some thrillers that I've been wanting to get to for a while, and I mentioned them in an anticipated thriller release, and then I know I have talked about this book before. I can't remember what video I've talked about it. So the first one is Every Vow You Break by Peter Swanson. Honestly, it may have been in one of my TBR videos like months ago, but I really love The Kind Worth Killing by Peter Swanson. The twists in that were superb. I highly recommend that, and I'll be sharing all my detailed thoughts on it in my wrap-up video coming out soon. This is about a woman who has a one-night stand, and she's getting married though, and she's on her honeymoon with her new husband. She's so in love with him, but this person who she had a one-night stand with shows up at her honeymoon, and she's like, why are you here? So this sounds like a really good concept and just a wild ride, and I've seen a lot of people really enjoy it, so I want to get to it. And it sounds like it's in an isolated setting. I believe they're honeymooning on an island. The last book I really want to get to is Local Woman Missing by Mary Kubica, and Kara from Caroline Johnson talked about this and just said it was a really solid thriller, and she was very satisfied with it, so that makes me really want to pick it up very soon. So this is about a few women who go missing within blocks of each other, and this really strikes up fear in the community. The cases though eventually go cold and no one is found, but 11 years later one of the victims turns up out of the blue. And of course everybody wants to know what happened. They're shocked to see her alive, but no one is really prepared to know what actually happened. All right, that is my hopeful TBR, and I'm really excited for it. All of these books sound great, and I hope I can read more this month. I have some really exciting videos coming out soon. I have my anticipated horror releases for September, as well as my anticipated thriller releases for September. Those are monthly videos. They are a series here on my channel. I have my wrap-up videos coming out. I think I'm going to separate it into 2 parts because I've read so much that I don't want to just have everything in one video. So I will be putting those out soon. I have my What I Watched in July and August coming out, my favorite horror movies. I just have so many videos coming out soon. So I hope you will stick around, hit that subscribe button, and I will talk to you all in my next video. Happy reading. Bye.